Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Hello everyone, and welcome again to our presentation here. And today I'm gonna talk about proposal writing. I'm just gonna give some few guidelines of how we are supposed to prepare our proposal. Especially it's applicable to the senior students in all faculties of Golis University, Bro. So when we talk about proposal writing, all research endeavors in both qualitative and quantitative research in every academic and professional field are preceded by a research proposal. If you want to conduct any research activity, whether it is qualitative or quantitative research, the first thing you must be able to do, you must do a research proposal. In any academic field, your research proposal will go through a number of committees for approval. Like for example, here at Golis University, Buro, we have the Research and Development Committee, which is responsible for checking the proposals of all students and making sure that those proposals are in line with the guidelines that which have been provided, and also do observe some ethical measures. So unless it is approved by all of them, you will not be able to start your research. Hence, it is important for you to study closely what constitutes a research proposal. So you must be able to understand what is a research proposal, because once you understand a research proposal, you will be able to write a very good proposal which will be accepted, and the committee will automatically approve that particular proposal so that you can be able to continue and write your research in the 8th or in the final semester. So certain requirements for a research proposal may vary from university to university and from discipline to discipline within a university. Yes, we have the guidelines that which we have provided to all our senior students on how to write their proposals. However, sometimes you find that such guidelines may not be the same. They might be different from one university to another university, or from one particular course or discipline to another particular discipline. For example, a student doing engineering, his or her proposal will not be the same as that particular student who is doing medicine or is doing business administration or whatever. A student who is doing ICT, his or her proposal will not be the same as a student who is doing midwifery or medical lab or whatever. So you find that actually these requirements for a proposal, sometimes they actually vary. They are always not. So whatever is outlined here will satisfy most of the requirements as per the Golis University proposal writing guidelines. So in whatever we're going to discuss throughout this presentation, I believe that it is going to help and satisfy most of the requirements that which we have provided in the guidelines that which we shared with you previously. So just to ask yourselves the question, what is a research proposal? This is a very simple question that which I believe that one should not be able to answer when you talk about proposal. A research proposal, we are saying that it is an overall plan, a scheme, a structure, and even a strategy designed to obtain answers to the research questions or problems that constitutes your research project. That is what we mean by a research proposal. It is like a plan. We are calling it an overall plan. Or it is like a structure or a scheme or a strategy that which you are going to use so as to get answers to the research questions or the problems that which actually your research is dealing with. So this particular plan, it is going to lay down the way how you are going to do things, how you're going to conduct your research activities from the start until the end, and how you are going to obtain answers to your research questions. So a research proposal should outline the various tasks you plan to undertake to fulfill your research objectives or obtain answers to your research questions. It should also state your reasons for undertaking the study. So this proposal of yours, it should be able to explain the various tasks that which you plan to undertake. What are you planning to do during your entire research activities? From the time when you develop your topic, the time when you prepare your own proposal, the time when you are going to design your research questions, the time when you are going to design your data collection tools, the time when you're going to analyze your data, present your data, until when you complete. That's what we're talking about here. You outline the various tasks that you plan to undertake. And this proposal of yours, it should also state your reasons for undertaking the study. Why are you doing a particular research study? It should be able to be, it should be explained in this particular proposal of yours. So a research proposal must provide the following information about your study. What are you proposing to do? How do you plan to find answers to what you are proposing to do? And why you selected the proposed strategies of investigation. Your proposal should provide answers to such questions, or should provide such kind of information, explaining exactly what your research is all about, how you are going to find answers to your research, and why you have selected particular strategies of investigation. Maybe you are going to use what we call observation as your method of data collection, or you're going to use a questionnaire administration, or you're going to use what we call focus groups discussion or interview. Why do you choose a particular method of finding answers to your research questions? You must be able to explain this in your particular proposal. So just those few information, I will take you through the contents of the proposal as per the guidelines that which we have already provided with you. Our proposal shall contain 3 main chapters, with chapter 1 having the introduction part, which has aspects of introduction to the study, background to the study, statement of the problem, scope of the study, definition of key terms, objectives of the study, which is divided into 2 major objectives and specific objectives, the research questions or even hypotheses, the significance of the study, and the anticipated constraints. This will constitute the first chapter of your proposal. Then the second chapter we have is the literature review. With the literature review here, you are going to do a lot of reviews on literatures, whether it is going to be from journals or textbooks or websites or internet and any other sources. And here you will have numerous topics related to your research topic. Then we shall be able to also have chapter 3, which chapter 3 talks about the methodology, the proposed methodology, how you are going to collect data. That is what you should be talking about in the third chapter, which shall have the introduction, the research design, the study area and population, the sampling techniques, data collection methods, data analysis tools, and ethical considerations, and even provide a conclusion about it. Then you'll provide references and appendices, including the tentative table of dissertation content, how your dissertation will look like, or your thesis, then the work plan and the budget estimates. So in this presentation of ours, we are going to only talk about chapter 1, that is the introduction of our proposal. What are we supposed to write in our chapter 1? That is what I'm going to explain throughout this presentation. And remember, you should be able to provide your list of references in APA format, alphabetically by the author's name. References of your proposal should not be long, but should be enough to indicate that you are going to actually consult. So remember that when we shall be writing our references, we are going to write our references using the American Psychological Association format, that is the APA format. Universities and other institutions may have the differing requirements regarding the style and content of our research proposals. Requirements may also vary within an institution from discipline to discipline or from supervisor to supervisor. The guidelines that which have been set out in this content, therefore, provide a framework within which a research proposal should be written at Golis University, Bur'o. For example, as per our guidelines, the writing format of our proposal, that is the writing style, it should be Times New Roman, 12 fonts, 1.5 spacing. Margin should be 1.5 on the left, 1.5 inch on the left, 1 inch on the right, 1 inch on top, and 1 inch down the bottom of the page. Those are some of the guidelines which we have already shared actually with you. That is as per the writing style, with your page number appearing on the right margin, on the right margin aligned. So universities will have always different requirements regarding the style and the content of the proposal. As per the Golis University guidelines, your proposal should follow the suggested Golis University guidelines and be written in an academic style. You're not supposed to write your proposal as if you're preparing some design for arts or entertainment or something like that. No, it should be an academic. It is an academic document, and that's why it should be written in an academic style. And that's why we have provided you with the guidelines that which we have given you. It must contain appropriate references, and your survey of the relevant literature should cover major publications on the topic. This, your supervisors are actually going to help you through all that. So for you to do your final research or project, you must write a research proposal. That's the bottom line. You cannot be able to do your research in the final semester if you have not yet conducted, or if you have not yet written or submitted your research proposal to the research vetting committee. And you cannot write a research proposal without a clear research topic. You must have a clear research topic for you to be able to write your research proposal. Then, what is your research topic? I believe everyone has a research topic. We all have a research topic for those who are going to do the research this current year. So what is your research topic? For example, impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. This can be an example of a topic. Maybe let's say it is my topic for this for the sake of this presentation. A case study of Bur'o, Somaliland. I'm going to discuss about how coronavirus pandemic has actually affected education here in Bur'o, Somaliland. So with you also, you have your own topic which actually you have to be focusing on, while we shall be explaining the remaining parts of this presentation. So I'm going to give a brief explanation of the different contents of a proposal. Remember, when we talked about the content of the proposal, we said we have basically 3 chapters. Chapter 1 is the introduction, which has all these contents. Then chapter 2 is the literature review, which shall have numerous topics as per your research topic. And then chapter 3 is about the methodology, which shall have such contents and any other necessary content that may be deemed necessary by your supervisor. So in the next presentations, I am going to talk about those contents one by one, especially from chapter 1. Then in the next video, I will talk about chapter 2, and the final video I'll talk about chapter 3. So The first content of chapter 1 is introduction to the study. This is a brief introduction of what your proposed research is about. You just introduce your research. What is it about? Here you can do this by explaining what your topic is all about, what you are going to deal with in relation to your topic throughout your research activity. You can also go ahead and provide a brief literature of the problem under investigation. The particular problem you are dealing with, provide some brief information about it. Take an example. My topic here is about impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. So in my introduction here, I will give a brief literature of coronavirus pandemic. I will explain what is coronavirus, its origin, and the nature of the problem that which this virus has caused to the world at large. I will just give some brief information about this particular problem that which I am dealing with. So the same applies to you. In your introduction to the study, just give a brief introduction of what your research is all about and some little literature review, literature of the problem which you are actually dealing with. Then apart from the introduction to the study, the second content we have is the background to the study. Here you are required to show what happened before and led to the occurrence of the problem or issue you are trying to research about. A brief history of the problem can be provided here with perspectives from global perspective, regional perspective, national perspective, and even local perspective. So under your background to the study, you are supposed to explain the problem in details. And this problem, you can explain it from different perspectives. That is from the global perspective, number one. Explain the problem, how it has affected the different parts of the world. Especially you can talk about Asia, Europe, Americas, and other continents here from the global perspective. Now, for example, my topic is talking about the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. In the global perspective here, I will talk about the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education in Asia, the impact of coronavirus pandemic in America, and also in Europe. Those are the global perspective which I should be looking at. Then from global perspective, I will come down to regional perspective. Regional perspective here, I have to talk about the coronavirus pandemic in sub-Saharan region, because now the region where I am in is sub-Saharan region. That is the African region, sub-Saharan region. So I'll be talking about the impact of coronavirus pandemic in sub-Saharan African region. And remember, all this information you have to get it not from your own head, but you have to get it from relevant sources, meaning that you have to do some review of literatures. You have to review some literatures to get the information about the impact of the problem you're dealing with in all these perspectives. So after talking about regional perspective, I will come down and talk about my problem at the national level, national perspective. Now nationally here we're talking about Somaliland as a country. I will talk about the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education in Somaliland. How has actually coronavirus affected education in Somaliland? This one also I will get information from the relevant sources or literatures that which I will be able to review. And then from the national perspective, I will come down and talk about, lastly, the impact of the problem from local perspective. Now local perspective here we talk about is the area where my research is going to be conducted from, that is Bur'o city or Bur'o district. So whatever the case, when you are preparing your background to the study, you are required to show exactly that there is a problem which actually is under investigation, and that particular problem you have to explain it, provide a proof that that problem is not just existing in your local area alone, not just in the place where you are doing your research alone, but rather it is a worldwide problem. As you can see, you explain the problem from global perspective, then from global perspective you come down, scale down to regional perspective, that is sub-Saharan region, then from sub-Saharan region scale down to national perspective, that is the country where you are in, that is Somaliland, and from national perspective you go down until local perspective. That is how you scale down the problem and make sure that actually it is viewed as a global problem, a worldwide problem. So apart from the background to the study, another important content we have is the statement of the problem. Statement of the problem, here the researcher is required to isolate the problem found crucial and needs to be addressed. This is where you isolate the problem and then you try to conduct further investigation about that particular problem and how your study is actually going to solve that particular problem. The problem should be stated in clear and specific terms. Explain the measures that have been taken by stakeholders to solve the problem and why those measures were not successful. So under here, the statement of the problem here, as a researcher, you're supposed to show that actually there is a problem. Now, for example, for the case of my topic here, impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. When I talk about the statement of the problem here, I have to show that indeed we have the problem of coronavirus pandemic, which has actually caused challenges to access to education. So by this way, it means that I have to explain what exactly, or to the extent to which this particular problem of coronavirus has affected education in Somaliland and Bur'o specifically, where the study is being conducted. At the same time, you also have to explain the measures that have been taken by stakeholders to solve the problem. Because already as we have this problem, it's not that the government is sitting idle and doing nothing. There is something that is being done by the government, by the NGOs and other stakeholders to solve this problem of COVID-19. Now, for example, the government of Somaliland has put measures, social distancing, working from home, closure of educational institutions, and many other measures which have been put forward, even forceful quarantine. Those measures that have been put forward, to what extent have they been effective? And why have they not been effective? You must be able to explain in your statement of the problem. Show that something has been done, yes, by the different stakeholders to solve this problem. Lekin, we are still having the same problem continuing, and therefore we need to do this research so that we can be able to solve this problem from our society. So that is what you have to write when it comes to your statement of the problem. The next content is the scope of study, and here you're required to discuss about the time, that is the date when the study shall be conducted, and also the geographical boundary where the study shall be conducted from. The scope will actually give you the frame in which your research shall be conducted from. That is, you should be able to explain specifically what your research is about and what it is not about. For example, for the sake of my study here, when we use this example of my topic here that which I've given, the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. Now, my study is going to be conducted in Buro. That is the geographical scope of my study, Buro, Somaliland. And the time period, maybe it is going to be conducted between May and August, or between, you tell the time period at which actually you are expecting to conduct or to do your research activity. So for your case, you should be having a scope in your topic. Your topic must be able to tell you exactly where that particular research is going to be conducted from. If it is in Odwene, it is written there, Odwene district. So you automatically, that is your geographical scope. So under the content of the scope of the study, you should be able to tell exactly the time when the study shall be conducted, and also the geographical boundary, and also try to explain specifically what your research is about. What does it deal with? Mine is talking about the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education. So specifically, I will be focusing on the impact, the extent to which coronavirus has affected education in Buro. And when I talk about education, I should also specify which level of education am I talking about. Is it just the general education, or is it only primary school education, or secondary school education, or university education? What level of education am I talking about? Or is it technical education? You should be able to explain specifically what your research is about and what it is not about. So that is the scope of the study. The next content after the scope of the study is the definition of key terms. And when we talk about the definition of key terms, here you are required to define the main terms that may be deemed necessary to be known by the reader. Such key terms can be derived from your topic of your research. From the topic of the research, you can have such terms clearly defined, and you have to make sure that you give the source of such definition. Now, for the sake of my study here, for example, the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education, I have to explain terms such as coronavirus. What is coronavirus? I have to define it. Pandemic. What's the meaning of the word pandemic? What is a pandemic? Also, I have to explain education. What do I mean by education? Such are the terms that which actually I have to explain in relation to my study. The same also applies to you if you are to deal with that. So after the definition of key terms, the next content is the objectives of the study. And here you are required to state the final target of your research. You state what you would like to achieve by the end of your research. By the time you complete your research, what do you expect to achieve? And the objectives are divided into two. We have the major objective and the specific objectives. The major objective, this one here, it is related directly to your research topic. That means that your research topic should be able to give you the statement of your major objective. For example, for the case of my example here, the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education, my major objective can be to analyze or to assess the impact of coronavirus pandemic on education in Buro. That can be my major objective. So your major objective, we're saying that it's usually derived from your topic of research. Then apart from the major objective, we also have specific objectives. This one here should be connected with the facts that which have been provided in your statement of the problem, meaning that your specific objectives and your statement of the problem should actually have some kind of interconnectivity or interconnection. Then apart from the objectives of the study, the seventh content of your chapter 1 in your proposal is about the justification or the significance of your study. So as a researcher, you're required to state the importance of your study and hence justifying it to be carried out. You have to explain how your research study shall benefit different stakeholders, such as the government, the NGOs, students, researchers, and many more. You have to explain to them how you are actually going to benefit them. For example, the government will be able to develop policies which shall be geared to solving the problem identified in the research study, or to fellow researchers who can be able to use your study for future references, to students who want to learn more about, let's say for example, coronavirus and its effect on education. Your research can be of great significance. So explain the importance of your research to different stakeholders in this content. Then apart from that, we also have the research questions. With the research questions here, you are required to provide a list of research questions that your study shall try to answer. And such questions should be related to your specific objectives and should be at least 3 and at most 5 questions. Don't write too much questions, because the same also applies to your specific objectives. Your specific objectives should also not be too many. At least a minimum of 3 objectives and a maximum of 4 or even 3. So the same also applies to your research questions. You can relate your research questions to your specific objectives, as in they try to actually ask questions which shall help you in achieving those particular specific objectives that you have stated earlier. Then apart from the research questions, the next content that which we have in what we call our proposal writing is the anticipated constraints. Here you are required to state some of the problems or challenges that you are most likely to face during your research activities. Challenges such as language barrier, lack of funds, poor cooperation among participants, insufficient time, and much more can be mentioned here. So explain, because you know, with doing research, it is not a simple thing. You cannot just do research without facing challenges. There are some challenges which you are actually most likely to face while conducting your research study. So what do you think are some of those challenges? For example, language barrier. Language barrier. As we understand, English has always been a problem. So conducting your research in English is also going to be a challenge. So you have to actually state that in this content. Lack of funds, maybe you're required to go and collect data from one particular point, but you don't have money for transport. You have to explain about this in your anticipated constraints. And also some participants might not be ready to actually provide you with the required data, and maybe insufficient time, and much more can be mentioned there. Then when you finalize that, that will be the end of the chapter 1. That will be the end of chapter 1 of your proposal. And at the end of your chapter, you have to provide references or bibliography. Let's talk about references, and provide a list of references to the citations that you might have used in your chapter 1. Whatever you have used, especially when you are writing your introduction, your background to the study, and also your statement of the problems. There we can find that actually there are some areas where we have to actually use some literatures. We have to do some citations, and any citation that which we have used, we should be able to provide its reference at the end. And like we said earlier in our guideline, that such reference should be written in APA format, that is the American Psychological Association format. For example, we have an example here: Olatukun W.M. and Igbenidion L.J. 2009. The title is there. So this is how we write in our APA format. The surname, you begin with the surname, then followed by the initials of the first two names, and then the year of publication, then the topic of publication, then the place of publication, and then the page numbers if it is available. This is if it is for the case of a book. But for the case of a journal, the case of that is an online publication, and for the case of a website or blogs, those are different. There are different ways that which actually we do the formatting, as we had learned previously in our lecture of research methodology. So whatever it is, when you're writing your references, make sure that you write it in APA format. That is the American Psychological Association format. And that brings me to the end of this presentation on proposal writing. I've just explained how to write proposal, that is chapter 1. However, in the later presentations, I'm going to explain to you about also how to write your chapter 2, and finally I will end with how to write your chapter 3, that is the research methodology. But for today, or for this presentation, that is what I had actually prepared for you to present to you on how to write this chapter 1, and Alhamdulillah, I have managed to complete it. So with those few remarks, I wish you all the best, and if you have any questions, please, you can just drop them to my WhatsApp number, which I believe that I had shared with most of you. Thank you very much, and may the Almighty Allah guide you all throughout this moment, and make sure that you follow the guidelines that have been put by the government in controlling the spread of COVID-19. Thank you very much.